Welcome back. You're watching Inside Politics. Thank you for staying with us. In case you're just joining us, we're dissecting the latest political developments to play out in the course of the week, even as we try and anticipate what can play out next week. Allow us to shift focus to the Finance Bill 2024, which has definitely caused outrage amongst various Kenyans due to some of the proposals when it comes to the increase in excise duties on various services. Now, this is all in a bid to boost tax revenues by the government. And that bill proposes a raft of new tax measures and powers that KRA are bound to be controversial. Several of them will actually cause a rise in the cost of crucial goods and services significantly for both individuals and businesses. A lot has been said on this, including from President William Ruto, who said this is just a start. We're aiming for 22% when it comes to the tax to GDP ratio. Let's listen in to some of the sentiments.
Begin to enhance our revenue, because if we are a serious state, we must be able to enhance our taxes. So my drive is to push Kenya. Possibly this year we will be at 16% from 14%.
Finance Bill 2024 is receiving public participation, and it happened the same way. Finance Bill 2023, public participation over 90% of Kenyans, and 98% said no.
They have continued killing all sectors. Agricultural sector, top of the list. Fake fertilizer, and you now have back Linturi. Hata nyinyi pia ni watu wa maajabu. Linturi is back to talk to us.
Bringing heavy taxation on bread. Even the little children who have just gone to school will not enjoy their bread with a bit of blue band. They will not.
You sleep and dream. Your only dreams are how to make life even more difficult for Kenyans. Which other areas can you impart some pain on Kenyans until you get to the place where you are thinking of imposing taxation on bread?
Well, bread has to be one of the controversial proposals in the Finance Bill 2024. So let's start with the controversial ones. And Maliba, you'll take point on this because questions have been raised over some of these proposals. Allocation of, is it 2.6 billion to renovate the deputy president's official residence and the annex office in the next financial year. There's no money for the school feeding program, yet we have money to renovate offices. Perhaps let's start from there. Are our priorities right, even though these are just proposals? Are our priorities right?
I think at the end of the day, you realize that resources are finite.
True.
And we try to juggle the best way around each and every one of those issues. There's a story I've told repeatedly that when I was elected to the National Youth Council to represent Nairobi at the National Youth Council, I remember at some point we went and saw President Uhuru Kenyatta, and while we were there, he made a declaration and told us that the National Youth Council will receive 300 million shillings, and that we therefore, in fact, the CS Treasury was there, our own Treasury, our own CS Anway Guru was there, leader of majority in Parliament, the head of, the chair of the Budget Committee, then from Reverend Mutava Msimi was there, quite a lot of guys were there. So, after that, of course, we initiated letters and everything else. So one day, the controller of budget then invited myself and the other one and told me, you guys are young people. I'd like you to work with me in the afternoon. So he just wanted to teach us a lesson. I told me, look at that, and look at that file, look at that file, look at that file, look at that file. Who is that? There is a CS asking for 1.8 billion. This one is asking for this money. This one is asking for this money. And this is what I get. And he told me, you guys have gone to school. Some of you have even legal training. But you didn't remember that a presidential declaration must be in writing and with a seal. Remember, at that particular time, we'd just been told around that. So why have I taken time to actually walk back? Is that number one, we do not have bottomless resources. So we go about and see how we balance out. And that is why running of government is one very important pillar when it comes to budgeting. A lot of times people can throw around very reactionary statements and say you should be doing this and not this. Sometimes, if the running of government does not work out, you will not have even the rest. I'll start with the most controversial part of it. Number one, this, first of all, like you said, is a proposal. Treasury has put out the proposal, the document is out there, it's been tabled in Parliament, and all of us are invited to do input into this. What I see is that there's a little bit of spinning around it, sloganeering, and people furthering other ends other than public participation, because public participation should be meaningful, should go into it. But you see, people who want to continue slandering government are using this particular bill to further that agenda. Those who want to campaign for themselves and profile themselves are using that to do that and not doing the real public participation. I'll just quickly pick one. On bread, for example, all of us know that bread is zero rated. So normally at the input level, the suppliers of bread normally apply for refunds from government. And that is actually the biggest tax expenditure we have as a government, actually on two things, bread and milk. That when we talk about the refunds that government actually pays out, they are on these particular two commodities. So somebody has not gone out there deliberately, and this I would actually take blame and actually say that Treasury itself doesn't do justice to this particular conversation because they do not also do popular versions of this particular bill. That bill is too complex. They also do not help and put out even explaining notes. So on that particular end, I would take the blame on behalf of Treasury as much as I work for the political party, but then we are one administration. I think Treasury in policy communication should do much better because this is about the life of the people. So no one has actually looked at what exactly that proposal actually speaks to. And like how many people use bread? How many people use processed milk? So even as we go about that, so you realize that when we spend money, we are spending tax on refunds for people who are manufacturing and supplying these particular two products. We are paying out so much money, actually in terms of billions. And we are realizing we need that money, we can actually do it differently. Two, motor vehicle circulation tax. It's been out there and everybody's making noise. Incidentally, and unfortunately, some of the people that should be explaining this much better are either quiet or they are just eating up their own words. Number one, it's become too expensive for government to keep motor vehicles on the road. Number one, by way of repairs, building new infrastructure, and even trying to build up a functional public transportation system. It means that we have to get money. And taxation must have actually some philosophical underpinning to it. In our case, and on this particular one, the motor vehicle circulation tax, it's so simple, it's quite utilitarian. That number one, for the cost of keeping vehicles on the road, whether it comes from the pipeline, whether it's the roads, whether it's the railway, and everything else, it's become expensive. You can look, because government is footing the bill. We know it's become expensive, and we must actually come around that. Two, as we go green, there is one thing, that there is what is being supported from outside, but we also have got the obligation of actually ensuring that we do what? We also put in. So the GHG, the greenhouse gases that we actually are producing, the transport sector produces 11% of our greenhouse gases. Out of that 11%, 67% of that is by road. So we are balancing out. And in return, what are we trying to do? We try to go green. We try to put up functional, both at national and at county level, functional and effective transport sector systems. Like in Nairobi, we are doing the railway city project, trying to bring the railway into the CBD. That is on Tomboya, do away with the Menti House, ensure that there's a train going all around Kenyatta Avenue, and then having a new stage, a railway station in Upper Hill. At national level, we are opening up roads like from Mombasa to Malaba. We're trying to ensure that that works out. All that needs money. So both from the end where we are taking care of the green end of it and the contributors, by the way, sometimes when you, not sometimes, but then when you are coming up with a policy, a tax policy proposal, you look at three things. Number one, you're looking at distribution. Number two, you then look at the costs of that particular end. And then number three, you look at revenue. Everybody here is just looking at the revenue. No one is looking at the cost. No one is looking at the redistribution effect that comes with that. Finally, there is the renovation. You know, for the longest time, and you know, this has been said a lot of times, it can never be repeated sufficiently, that the office of the deputy president for the longest time had actually been underfunded. No one does justice to that particular conversation, even when William Ruto has come out, and no one, including people in Treasury, have actually come out to countermand that particular suggestion, which means it's true that for the longest time, for a long time, he will even fuel his own vehicles in that particular office. It's been reported in the media. It's out there. So even as we try to ensure that the running of government, that is a cost in running of government. We are bringing in, for example, about 40,000 village elders who we are going to pay. A lot of people will say, why would you be putting in a lot of money to pay those people, and then our children do not have food? So if we sentimentalize the input and the conversation around this particular bill, we don't do justice to this bill, we don't do proper public participation, and we don't help the conversation, because what are we doing? We are politicizing it, we are sentimentalizing it, making it reactionary. At the end of the day, it's defeatist, and we will say Parliament has not done its work.
Interesting. So running of government definitely needs resources, and you're using that to substantiate the renovation of the DP's residence since they were underfunded. It's not the first allocation to the office of the deputy president. When they came into power, I think during that financial year, we still had an allocation, and still the same reason was given, that it's been underfunded. So in terms of priorities, as I cross to you, Okango, are we getting our priorities right from where you sit? And we've heard from Azimio mentioning that if the finance bill is passed, we're back to the streets. Is that the best solution? Surely.
Jesse, on 22nd of February this year, we forewarned the people of Kenya in our PG, and we had gone through what is called budget policy statement. And we told the people that the Kenya Kwanza regime were planning to double the taxation. They were planning to come with a heavy taxation on the middle class, mama mboga, boda boda, and mtu wa mkokoteni. William Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, confirmed the same. And he says that Kenya, compared to her peers in the continent, is one of the countries that is least taxed in terms of the ratio of the taxation to the GDP. And he says that it is 14%. And he says by the time he leaves office in 2027, at least he recognizes that he will leave, it will be 22%. What that means is that William Ruto and his regime are actually planning to raise revenue by taxing everyone, everything, and anything. And you have seen that. You have seen that. Now, listen. The principles of public finance demands of William Ruto and the government of the day that the finance, or rather what we call financial system, must be a system that promotes equity. And specifically, that burden of taxation must be fair. The expenditure must be that which promotes the development of the county equitably. Let me give an example. They have proposed to introduce a tax called motor vehicle at 2.5% of the value of the vehicle. Majority of the cars that are insured in this country, majority are third party. They are not telling us who is going to be the valuer of the third party, the guys who intend to insure their cars on a third party policy. Number three, they are saying that the insurer shall collect and submit that amount on the 5th day after issuing the cover, and failure to which there will be a penalty of 50% of the value of the car. This is self-defeatist. They will not get it because, first of all, people will run away from insuring their car. They'll say, okay, fine, if that is it, then I'll go the third party and I'll give the value of my car as I wish. So it is self-defeatist. Number three, they are telling us that the hustlers and the hustlers and the young people who are using the creative industry through what we call digital marketplace, the income from their creativity will be charged 20% as a tax. That's what they're telling us. William Ruto, when speaking the very day, says that in Kenya, they have put a lot of effort in ensuring that they promote the social media industry, Meta, Twitter, so that the young people can monetize. They are giving you an opportunity to monetize, but at the same time, they are dwarfing you by taxing you heavily so that that business collapses. They are not for the young people. Number 3, the government of the day is not minding about the welfare of its people, of its citizens. Every family, as my leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, said, in this country, whether poor or rich, believes that at least bread, they can always work hard to provide bread for their family, bread and associated products. That is the product that we are being told now, there is a proposal to bring 16%. Whichever economic angle Maloba explains, but in the eyes of the ordinary Kenyan, they are feeling that the bread will be more expensive. Yeah. And let me go back slightly before I finish to the motor vehicle tax. That motor vehicle tax, the implications are such that the cost of transportation will go high, administrative and compliance issues with the insurers will come in, they'll transfer that cost to the consumer of the service. Basically what that means, Jesse, this country is going to see the tax levels that they've never seen before. And lastly, they have said, if you don't want to be taxed motor vehicle, leave your car. If you don't want to do this, you see the utadu mentality. And they're saying this is a proposal that they are inviting the people to give their views. But listen, the ink on the 2023 finance bill has not dried, which is now an act. The people of Kenya told William Ruto, we don't want the housing levy. It is there. The people of Kenya told William Ruto, we don't want you to double the tax on fuel. Okay. It is there. Okay. So the value of public participation has been watered down. In any case, the public participation should be such that the views of the public must be factored in the final decision making. In this case, it is not. Why? They have an artificial majority in parliament. They know that whatever they're telling people to undergo public participation will not come through. They will pass it the way they want it. And that's why, as Azimio, we have told them, this time round, Jesse, if they don't listen to the people, I have seen the chair of finance, Kuria, saying that if you are not interested in the motor vehicle tax, leave your car at home. These are people who are having condescending attitude. Okay. They don't care about us, people of Kenya. We are telling them as Azimio, this time round, we actually have an alternative way of dealing with this tax bill. We have an alternative way of dealing with finance bill. And we'll tell them, we have instructed our members of parliament through the leadership of Minority Opiyo Wandayi that our members will reject this finance bill. But after rejecting it, we'll also propose the appropriate taxation that is commensurate to the production of the people of Kenya. Oh. And after that, we shall also give people direction on the people's finance bill that we would have wanted to see. Because
I think that's a good way to go. Because last year you were being criticized of not giving alternatives. We are saying
that first of all, we will look at the tax bill, the finance bill, and we'll highlight the issues of concern to the people, because that is done in the parliament as the provision of law. But lastly, we will also fix that issue through an alternative way, politically and economically.
Through a shadow. Yes, will I just put in a word kindly before he comes, so that then he can actually have a free time. You see, number one, the bill, any bill, before it comes here for public participation, is normally in parliament 3 times. So when Azimio today that has got representatives in parliament who sit in those committees are telling us that they will, as if they have seen this bill today, they are joking with us. That bill has been in parliament 3 times before it came out here, and Azimio has got representatives in there. This is populist.
It's not
this
populist.
Is actually short-sighted, and it's not effective.
Remember, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Absolutely.
I saw President Ruto playing the same card when it comes to the bread tax proposal. Because on Monday last week, it's when he said that we might shoot this down. But that bill actually goes through cabinet before going even to parliament.
So this is the point.
Ruto knew about it.
Yes.
That is the thing.
Let's have this conversation in... You know, me, I like talking to Kenyans in language that is very simple for them. So I want us to take out our calculator. most homes in Kenya have a Pro Box. And very many homes, from the Pro Box, they have a fielder. A fielder, because the tax proposal is absolutely crazy. It means kumaliza hustler. By the way, if you have ever seen a government that hates hustlers, it's the Kenya Kwanza administration. Now, this is the reason. They are saying that the minimum will be 5,000 for that taxation, and the maximum will be 100,000, but it is the value of the car. A fielder today is 2 million shillings. 2.5% of 2 million shillings for every Kenyan is 50,000. Now, the fella with the fielder is paying 50,000 as car circulation tax. The person with the Pro Box, let's say it's 1 million shillings a product. There's a lot more. It's more than 1.2 million shillings. But let's calculate it at 1 million shillings.
Okay.
So the Pro Box owner will be paying 25,000 shillings per year to run his Pro Box on the road. Then there is this Bwanyenye who has bought an LX600 for 32 million. And you know the leader of this LX600 for 32 million. Now that person who has a car for 32 million will be paying 100,000. 132 million Lexus has got how many Pro Boxes? 32 Pro Boxes. So 32 Pro Boxes will pay 25,000. Help me Kenyans to calculate. 32 Pro Boxes will pay 25,000 times 32. That's what they will pay. These fielders, which is about twice. Now the fielders are 16 of them. Each of them will pay 50,000. So 16 fielders will give Kenya 4 million shillings. But this Bwanyenye who owns a Lexus worth 32 million is going to pay 100,000. This is where this thing becomes very unfair. I saw a Kenya Kwanza senator bragging that they have bought a Range Rover, the one for 54 million. They were showing it all over. All right. And by the salary of such people does not support you to have a car worth 54 million. Let's not go there.
But I'm just saying, I saw. Do we have a senator who did that?
Let me tell you.
Not a current senator.
He said a senator. That's, I guess, what the last suggestion.
No, 54 million. 54 million. This person is going to pay 100,000.
Okay.
But the person with the Pro Box is going to pay 25,000. This is where it gets unfair. Now, let's go back even to the school feeding program. Now, you allocate 2.6 billion to the house of the deputy president. You allocate 1.2 billion to two women we never voted for, but I don't know why we give the first lady money and why we give the deputy first lady money. I've always complained about this. Let me tell you why. Let me tell you why I complain about it. It's because your wife is not being paid for you working here. So why should we pay the wives of these people for us for having voted for them?
Sure?
But in total, we have... Sure? Yes, in total, we have...
the HR at standard.
No. Maliba, tell me of any city hopper.
There's a family allowance.
No.
If he has, there's family allowance.
Don't allow him to heckle me like Kenya.
Okay, I'll protect you.
Let me tell you.
As you finalize, we need to take a break.
Tell me of any city hopper driver whose wife gets paid because his husband drives a city hopper. It doesn't happen. So let us not pay first ladies 1.2 billion. In total, if you combine 1.2 billion from the first ladies, 2.6 billion from the renovation of the deputy president, and the additional 3 billion that was sent to State House, that's 7.8 billion. Now, this 7.8 billion is what we are seeking to recover from motor vehicle circulation tax, because it is 3.9 million cars on the road, times an average of 20,000 per car. If you remove what we are giving these people, we have 7.8 billion. You remove that tax. I'm just showing you where the money is. Finally, on the same. A meal, a meal in a primary school, it's 11 shillings. You'll see, they have always said it's 11 shillings per plate. So 7.8 billion will give you, you take 7.8 billion. I've actually done that calculation here, and I want Kenyans to share with
11
me.
per plate, okay.
It will give you about, if you divide by 10, it will give you about 100 million plates. If you divide, basically, you can feed the children for 70 days. Okay. The 10 million children who are in school, you can feed them for 70 days. Ukitoa pesa ya first ladies, pesa ya kurenovate deputy president's house, na ile pesa iliongezwa State House. That alone can feed our children for 70 days. So let us take that 7.8 billion given to these people and feed our children and stop this nonsense of allocating money to those who already have it. I get your point
in terms of misplaced priorities, but he equally raised a very critical point that, this is government and we need resources to run government. So removing from Paul to give Peter, might not be a practical
Actually,
solution.
the
as
framing
is.
of that story, Jesse, was wrong. The media house that sat down and decided to use the deputy president's budget and then the lack of it was deliberate. And you know that coming up with headlines in the editorial boardroom is as political as this set is.
But it's a fact as well. It
It's
looks bad
no,
on the government.
it's not
if
a
you don't
fact.
have money for
It's
school
not a fact.
feeding, but you have money for renovations.
Facts.
Come on.
Jesse,
Facts
Jesse, the
are
question-
as just as real
Jesse,
as where
the
we
question
sit.
is-
We need to take a
Anyway,
break,
that
gentlemen.
said,
Before you take the question, just
We'll
one
be back
second.
with this.
The,
We have to
the
pay our bills,
expenditure,
guys.
the expenditure, does it promote equitable development of the country? When you spend 1.2 billion on one person, when you spend 1.4 billion
an
on
office
two
is
people,
not a person, and Okango
no,
is
no,
cool
no, no.
enough to know that the
No, no, no,
office
no.
of the
We
deputy
will elect
president
bachelors.
is not the
No.
same.
Gentlemen,
Is not the same
gentlemen,
as the person of
let's take that
the
Gachagua.
same person, one
We'll be
cars.
back with a lot more. As you can see, things are getting
Why are you not a
heated
bachelor?
right
We
here
will
on the
elect
round table.
bachelors
So we'll be back
moving
with much
for
more.
president.
Keep it inside politics.